Let's talk about a bunch of fishing stuff. Welcome to the Good Karma Sport Fishing Podcast. I'm your host, Captain Ryan Van Fleet. First, I'm closed for fishing charters through October 29th. We pulled the Good Karma out of the water, and she's at the beauty parlor getting some major cosmetic surgery done. So now for the guys that are into boat restoration and fiberglass work, building boats, you're going to want to see the before and after pictures of the Good Karma because she's going to look completely different. Now, I'm not going to tell you what I'm getting done because right now it's in the process and we're gathering before and after pictures of the work. So I'm documenting it all and I'm going to post them. And I'm not going to tell you who's doing the work yet because I'm going to leave that for the end process so you guys can see what's happening. And after it's all done, said and done, then I'll give you all the information. And then if you need some work done, this is going to be the guy you're going to want to see because I am very impressed with the work that these guys are doing so far. And they're going to get it done in a short amount of time, which is unbelievable for South Florida. So I'm going to leave it at that, but it's going to be cool. I'm very excited about it because I really believe in presentation, and I want my clients to have the very best. So Ernest Hemingway once said, "The work of the ship is never done," and he is so right. So anyway, so on to the another topic here. So I think it was last Thursday I went fishing with Melinda. We talked about that in the previous podcast. We were just out there for a fun day. Now, prior to the fishing trip, I had spent some time working on a rig that I've been wanting to work on for many years, and it's a dead Ballyhoo rig called the Cayman Crusher. Now, this rig was made famous by George Poveromo on his, it's on the World of Saltwater Fishing show. I think it was a 2012 episode. He went to the Cayman Islands to go Wahoo fishing with Carrie Chan, the marine artist. It's a pretty cool story about how Carrie Chan was and how George met Carrie Chan, and he was at the Miami Boat Show, and how that all came to how Carrie Chan became like this, how Carrie Chan blew up after meeting George. So I think that was one of the best episodes of saltwater fishing show that I'd ever seen. That one and the monster fish episode where this was back, and you can Google it, but where they traveled to San Salvador to go Wahoo fishing. And he brought the Joe Shoot lures. The host brought the Joe Shoot lures with him. And they were trolling them over rig Ballyhoo, and they were using the Cayman Crusher rigs, the dead Ballyhoo rigs. So let's talk about the Cayman Crusher. The Cayman Crusher rig was made famous by George on that show that I was watching. I was like, damn, that was badass. And I love trolling dead Ballyhoo because I catch a lot of fish on dead Ballyhoo, a lot of Wahoo. A lot of big dolphin when they're here. I catch sailfish on them when I'm trolling. So it's just dead Ballyhoo works for me. Now, I'll be honest with you guys. This rig is a pain in the ass. It's just a little complicated, just enough to kind of annoy you a little bit. Now, as I was making the rigs and stuff, I remembered what I went through a few years ago when I tried it. Yes, I tried it a few years ago, and I failed miserably because my mind just wasn't in the right place to make the rig at the time. I had other things going on. I wasn't quite there. I was just kind of in a fog. So the Cayman Crusher rigs I made years ago, they just didn't work because I made them wrong, and I wasn't thinking through the process of the rig. So I was like, every year I put certain rigs on a list to get back to if I failed, but I know they work. So this year on the top of the list for Wahoo season was the Cayman Crusher rig again. And I'm like, this year I'm going to get it right. So my mind was in a good place. I had everything taken care of that I wanted to. And I was like, okay, so I'm just going to focus on getting this rig right this year. So I ordered all the right materials. And I sat down one day and I just rigged it right. I just got it right. I was patient, and I laid everything out right. I got the hooks right. I got the cable right. I got the crimps right. And I was like, there you go. I've got it. Now, what was frustrating, and then the next one was like, okay, there's always some frustrations with rigs. They make it look so easy on paper, but what I about this rig is that they never did put a video up of this rig on how to make it correctly. So for all my listeners, I'm going to make a video for you guys on how to rig the Cayman Crusher. The instructions that are out there are a little vague. So when you go through and you Google Cayman Crusher and it comes up with the instructions, they're a little vague. You'll see where they're a little vague when it comes to securing the ballyhoo to the wire before sliding the lure on top of it. That's where it gets a little vague because it's tricky. And I have to say I figured it out. So the rig takes a little while to make. So I typically start my day at 3 a.m. when I leave for a charter at, like, let's say for example I leave at 6:30. So just to let you know, I had to start my day at 1:30 in the morning because these rigs take extra time to make. There are some added components as well that are required for securing the ballyhoo to the wire that you don't see in the instructions, and I'll show those in the video. I'm not going to mention them right now because I just want to wait until I do the video because it'll make more sense. And also, as I was rigging the Cayman Crusher, I stumbled upon a new way to rig ballyhoo, a standard ballyhoo, skipping ballyhoo, and to secure the beak rather than using a pen rig. I was like, oh man, this is great. So, and I'll share that as well with you guys to make your lives a little easier. Now, that does require an extra component as well, so you're going to have to stay tuned. And the video is going to take a little time to make, but I'll probably make it maybe next week before I go fishing again. That way I'll do it. You'll get to see the process of me rigging and all that good stuff. But I'll show you the finished rig in the show notes, and I'll post it up on my Instagram, and you'll be able to see it, what it looks like when it's rigged in the ballyhoo. So the big thing is like the whole point of all the talking about the Cayman Crusher is that if you are like learning how to rig, you need to practice and you need to be determined. If it doesn't feel right, you need to take a step back from it and revisit it at a later date when your head is clear and you've got and you're focused. And that's what I did with the Cayman Crusher. And I'm very happy that I did, and I didn't give up on it. And I don't like to give up. I'm not a quitter. So, it was so cool to see that rig work. I was just like, all that hard work that I did and all the frustrations of making the rig and seeing it not work and spin. And I'm like, oh, it was just a frustrating rig. And to actually get it right and see it work in the water and catch those big wahoo was like, yes. So for me, that was a win because that's what it's all about in the end, was sticking with it and getting it right and not letting it beat me down and doing it on my own. So I didn't ask for help. I just went and did it, and I kept doing it, and I kept doing it, and kept doing it till I got it right. And I encourage my listeners to do the same, okay? If you have something that's frustrating you when it comes to a rig, is that you need to practice, okay? You need to practice and you need to practice. I do some unconventional things, and I'm very proud of that because those unconventional things catch me fish consistently. So there are things that I do that I follow the pack. There are standard stuff. I do like to slow troll with live ballyhoo, but I do that a little different too. So I've got the Rodan trolling motor that I use to bump me in and out of gear now. It's lethal, and it's when I'm not the best at flying kites. I'll be honest with you, I'm not the best. But this year I'm I'm committing to learning that. I'm committed to spending more time at learning. I can get the kites up in the air and all that good stuff, but there are a lot of tricks, and kite fishing can be very, very, very challenging. That's why these guys have teams of like 4 to 5 to 6 people on their boats during these sailfish tournaments, because it can get tricky. And when you add a charter boat client that doesn't get to spend a lot of time on the water, and you have kites up in the air, and there's just a lot of things there's just a lot that goes into it, because you want to maximize your time on the water. And I'm not 100% confident that I can maximize my time on the water when I kite fish for clients, because I haven't had enough time with the kites. That's it. I just haven't had enough time with the kites, because 90% of my clients are meat fishermen and they want to bottom fish. So like the Cayman Crusher rig, it was on a list to complete this year and to become 100% confident that I could put the rig in the water and it would catch fish. It's off the list. I'm on to kite fishing now. I need to practice. And I'm uncomfortable with the kites, but like, listen, I'm going to get you. Just because I'm uncomfortable, it doesn't mean I'm going to walk away from it. And I'm not going to throw up my hands as, kite fishing's too hard. I hear a lot of people say that, there's a lot that goes into it. It's not worth messing with. But what I've learned is that that's kind of a cop-out. There's no cop-outs here. I'm like, it's technical, but the more you practice, the better you get and the easier it gets. You do things without thinking. That's when you're good. So it's going to take some time, but I'm going to get there. And my whole point is, with this, what I just talked about here with these rigs and kite fishing is that don't give up. Good fishermen are very determined, and they don't throw up their hands. They don't quit. And that goes with anybody out there in life. They just keep working at it. They keep practicing. They keep practicing until they perfect it. So, or they come up with something that works for them. It doesn't have to be a copycat, guys. It doesn't have to be a copycat. I didn't copy. I went through the rig, the Cayman Crusher rig, and and then I modified it to work for me. So that's how things should be. That's how all great ideas come about. So they're old school tricks with new twists, I guess I should say. Old school fishing techniques with new twists. And that's okay, because you got to stay ahead of the game to be successful, guys. You got to stay ahead of the game. So you're going to hear it at every seminar. Modify things that work for you, that work for your boat. And that's like so true. And it's your boat. Be confident with it. And when you get on another guy's boat, let the other guy do his thing, okay? Don't criticize the guy. Let's let him do his own thing. If the guy asks for help, then he's going to ask for help. It's his boat. Let him do his thing. You're there as a passenger. You have to have confidence in your captain. That's how things roll. If a discussion comes up about the techniques, that's a good time to kind of toss some ideas back and forth. But the last thing a captain wants to hear is, well, this is how I do it. That's like especially when you're on another guy's boat. So you want to have a little respect for the other guy. But that's all I got for today, guys. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Please follow me on Instagram at goodkarmasportfishing_FL_keys. And check out my new fishing report that I posted on my website. I posted up some pictures and all that good stuff, so take a look at it. That's all I got. And remember, anytime you're fishing, it's all good.